Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have not just two good teams, but we actually have the Ushra'Khan flagship with us. I'll leave you to Angel Hunt and Kill 2.
Howdy everyone, Agony Empire versus Ushra'Khan in close to the end of day 4 in Alliance Tournament 8. Agony Empire on the left has got a Macarial, 3 Slipners, one of which piloted by T-Days, Alliance Tournament 7 commentator, I should mention, a Scimitar, 3 Sabers, and 2 Dreamwheels.
And from Ushra'Khan we have Kuva K, let me get it right, Kuva K Bane, the flagship for Ushra'Khan, the Nightmare, estimated at roughly 4 bill, piloted by Amaya Andashanisha. Can't say that. We have a Basilisk, 3 Tengus, a Vulture, and a Saber. Looks like a heavy shield tanking setup versus the now classic Mimitar / Angel setup.
Alright, we are rolling quite a bit of distance between the teams to start out, maybe 30 or 40k, but that'll be closed pretty fast by this Mimitar team. I really don't like this Ushra'Khan setups. The ISD has given this awesome statistic that Tengus are the most fielded ship by losing teams in the tournament so far, so hopefully that stays that way. Tengus looks like they're going for the Agony Scimitar to start things off.
And that Agony Scimitar is dipping perilously low into shields. Hopefully they'll be able to get some rep drones on it soon enough to be able to recover. It looks like both teams are primarying the opposing logistics ships. It appears that the Agony logistics will go down first. Perhaps the DPS from Agony will be enough to compensate, but at this point, with the logistics still up for Ushra'Khan, they may just be able to outlast.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to see. The Basilisk hurting pretty bad, and he's getting cap transfer from the Nightmare. That Nightmare having a couple extra high slots because of the Marauder type turret bonus. So he's cap transferring to the Basilisk. Not enough. Basilisk going down fast now that it's through shields. At the same time, though, first Slipner for Agony hurting pretty bad. So back and forth so far.
And it looks like the Nightmare is firing Scorch. He is at a medium engagement range, ripping through Caranthraloon of Agony at this point. We're seeing a little bit of damage, a lot of damage on the Ushra'Khan Saber as Ushra'Khan trades a Saber for a Sleipnir.
And actually, Sabers, since you mentioned them, I think are a big part of what's going to make the difference in this fight. We got 3 Sabers on Agony, and even though they're losing that Sleipnir and losing damage in that form, they've got a lot of damage in the form of these Frigs and Sabers. So, you know, even though they lost that one Sleipnir, it doesn't mean they're out of it by any means. Tengu's starting to take damage. Yeah, still really back and forth. We'll have to see. I guess this is just a real DPS race now, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And from where I'm sitting and where I'm watching, the Nightmare definitely does impressive DPS, but I think the Sleipnir, Macarials, and Sabers really will be able to edge out this Tengu fit. I'm
not so sure. Another Sleipnir just went down, and since we have all the data for the fits on these flagships, we can see that Nightmare has a Pith X type shield fit. So even if they get through a Tengu or 2, they have a real obstacle left in that Nightmare unless they have some E-War to make it less effective later on. But I don't think that's the case. It looks to me like these guys were shield tanked and running maybe some defensive E-War type stuff, sensor boosters maybe, or ECCM, although I don't see any graphics for those things now. Smart Bomb on this Sleipnir for sure, but T-Days and that Sleipnir are going to go down, I think. Looking pretty good right now for Ushra'Khan.
It looks decent for Ushra'Khan. I'm also seeing quite a number of Vesa medium jamming drones from Agony, it looks like. Maybe, hopefully able to negate some of the damage incoming to them, but it will be unlikely. Again, this really could go either way at this point. It looks like they have changed targets to the Sabers, and the first Saber for Agony is going down with a light amount of shields taken away from Ushra'Khan.
Man, another Saber down. This Nightmare just sniping stuff, or actually Tengus as well. A lot of really mobile DPS for Ushra'Khan. This might be definitely something to go against that beautiful ISD statistic. Tengu's performing really well right here. Really simple kind of tank and gank Tengus. With that Basilisk to almost a bait Basilisk with the cap transfer coming to run his local tank. And another Saber down, so now just the Macarial and 2 Dramiels. It might take a second for them to catch this Macarial. I assume he's plenty more mobile than most of the Ushra'Khan team, although it doesn't look like he's particularly far away right now.
The Macarial doesn't seem to be moving at all. He just turned on a speed mod, it looks like, really blowing up his sig radius. So now these Tengus are able to hit him all for full damage if they weren't already. I believe as he's shield tanked, they were already. It's interesting. We were discussing command ships earlier and their use and the kind of how unattractive they are for the number of points, but the Vulture in conjunction with the Nightmare is an incredibly powerful setup, especially when you have a number of already fairly strong independent shield tanking ships like the Tengus. It's a really interesting way to outlast this heavy DPS setup that was brought by Agony.
This Mach is trying to get away, but it's not going to happen. He's moving 1,700 meters a second, trying to get, I guess, outside of heavy missile range from those Tengus, but there's no way. They're spread out real well. He's still taking plenty of damage, and he's in structure now, so with him down, that's going to finish the match. I know those Dramiels were in orbiting one of the Tengus a second ago, and I assume it'll just take a second for them to switch damage over, finish off those Dramiels, and book this one in favor of Ushra'Khan. Another match, though, where both teams scoring a significant amount of points. We might see Agony get through to the finals. They took out, what, a Tech 3 logistics ship and one other thing.
They took out a Basilisk and a Tech 3 Tengu, so they did score a fair amount of points. I'm looking forward to seeing how Ushra'Khan does in later rounds. This is a nice flagship, not terribly expensive. I guess now, since we've seen the Frekkies on the field, not much is going to be terribly expensive, but it's an impressive setup. It's very cohesive. It's a solid strategy. The Basilisk maybe not the strongest ship for this, but it looks like Ushra'Khan will most definitely be seeing them on the finals weekend. Interestingly, it looks like the Nightmare is still shooting Scorch. He seems to actually be landing some hits on the Dramiel, probably for minuscule amounts of damage. It doesn't look like the Dramiels have gone to full arena orbit yet. We'll see whether they do so.
Yeah, I think they might. It's probably the missiles doing damage. I don't think that Nightmare would probably be able to hit, and if he was, it would be for like all their HP at once. Oh dang, I had something I was gonna say. About the setup, like it being cohesive. I think it looked like a garbage setup. I mean, it performed well, and that's the kind of thing that always makes me wonder if I have any idea what I'm talking about. But I think this looks a lot like it's kind of a more advanced version of the setup we don't like, the Drake kind of passive shield. Maybe with logistics, in this case with logistics, but it's a relatively low DPS setup. It's not mobile. It can't do too much against E-War. It's not fielding too much E-War of its own. It's just kind of a simple tanking gank, and it did well here. So I don't know. Maybe it could continue to do well. But I think if it runs into a bomber setup, or if it runs into kind of something with a little more, I don't know, a little more trickiness to it, something that can shut down the logistics chain really quickly and kind of isolate the damage, it might not do so well. But I don't know. Good job, Ushra'Khan, making it work, I guess. That one Dramiel's about to go down, it looks like.
The Tengus have switched to precision Scourge heavy missiles, so that is going to be the majority of the damage coming onto the Dramiels. And I agree that the setup was cohesive and simple, and I believe all the pilots completely were able to keep with the strategy against a setup that like Rote Capel actually just fielded. I don't think it would have fared very well at all. It's interesting that they threw that Nightmare in, which is probably one of the more powerful shield tanking turret ships alongside of those Tengus. So you're getting huge amounts of damage from both a turret ship and consistent damage when they're able to lock from the Tengus. I do think that this setup is extremely susceptible to heavy cap warfare, and again, possibly the battlecruiser gangs that we've been favoring. I think if it were to encounter one of the drone-based setups or the missile setups, it probably would not feel very well. It looks like Agony is offering a 3 bill ransom to blow themselves up. It looks like one of the Dramiels has gotten out of range. Olozim from Agony has gotten out of range. He's stopped taking damage. this is just a run to the end at this point, it seems. Ushra'Khan has answered by taking chances with their scourges.
That's really funny. I assume that offer is not real, but it's pretty funny. If anybody didn't watch Week 1 or hasn't looked at the forums or doesn't play Eve, in round 1, Hydra offered Agony 3 bill for Hydra to sacrifice all their ships and give Agony the win. One Dreammail does go down there, so only one left now to finish the match. Agony didn't accept, but Hydra self-destructed anyway. It was kind of more of a strategic move than it was a ransom, but it's funny, Agony now making the same offer. And that Dreammail left the arena, or self-destructed or something. So good job, Ushra'Khan. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we certainly will. Ushra'Khan did pretty well. Agony Empire might actually have done just enough to sneak into the final weekend. We'll know later. There's about 10 minutes till our next match. It's at 1900 Eve. It is the All-Stars from Dystopia Alliance versus the Kadeshi.